Hey everybody, my name is Matthew Hollis for 365 Films. Basically what I do is I review a film a day for 365 days. So I watch and review a new film a day for 365 days. And the film today on day 21 is Everest. So Everest basically is exactly what the title is about. It's about these people hiking up Mount Everest and the treacherous terrain of Mount Everest. And the first thing I want to say about this movie is that it is very gorgeous. The shots and stuff that they have, and I believe they did go to Nepal to shoot some of the scenes, although you can tell that a decent amount of the scenes are CGI for good reason. Obviously, you can't just hike up and shoot a film on Mount Everest. But all the characters, what I really noticed right off the bat is the characters are actually really likable and really fleshed out. I went into this film thinking that it was going to not really be that great, and it turned out to be actually really, really good. I just thought it was gonna, from the previews and everything, I thought it was gonna be another one of those kind of disaster movies, kind of like San Andreas, where like everything goes wrong, and it did look, the previews made it look that way, and that's really not what happened. And this is based off of a true story. Everything that happens in this film really did happen, so that kind of adds a bunch of suspense to it. And there was a character kind of arc, there was a character thing in the very beginning where the main character, I think his name's David Hall or something like that. He has a wife, and she played by Keira Knightley, and she's going to have a baby. So you're like, oh, here comes that cliche again of you know, war films do this as well, and I believe even 13 Hours does this. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard about it. Where, you know, they call back home and their wife's pregnant, and they're talking about what they're going to name their baby and stuff like that. And you're like, they're just adding this to add more drama to the situation. But then it clicked in my head, this really happened, and this is a true story, and this actually really did happen. And so it wasn't really a cliche at that point, because you're just telling a true story. And it's told about 3 different teams, but it really follows this Hall guy as the main character. And he really has been up the mountain many times. After like the early 1990s, there was 3 teams that would, for like $60-something thousand you could pay, and they would help you get to the top of Mount Everest. Mount Everest became a business instead of just a expedition. And obviously going up to Mount Everest, they have this zone that's called the death zone. And once you get past that death zone, your body's really fighting to stay alive. You know, you can't barely breathe. There's barely any oxygen, so you have to wear oxygen masks. But then also, your muscles and everything are really being worn down by the amount of pressure and stuff that you're at that level. I mean, this is the fly level. The top of Everest is the height of the normal flying height of a 747, so you're not really supposed to be up there. And this is apparent in the film, and the film really shows how difficult it is to climb up Mount Everest. Now obviously this film exists for one reason and one reason only, that there is an incident that happened in 1996 with these crews, and a storm happens right after they get to the top of Mount Everest. A storm happens and things really go bad, and you really, they build up all the characters and stuff, so you really get to know them. And Josh Brolin's in the movie as well. And at the beginning, I thought that they were going to make him kind of an antagonist, because a lot of these films really do that. Even though there's a huge event happening, like say an Armageddon or something, they still try to make an antagonist, kind of like how they try to make an antagonist out of Steve Buscemi in Armageddon, or just name another like cataclysmic movie that happens. And normally they try to paint a normal human character as an antagonist, so you have somebody to root against. And with this film, in the very beginning, I thought that they were going to do that with Josh Brolin's character, but they didn't. They painted all the characters completely the same, and or not completely the same, but with a gray perspective instead of a black and white, like this person's good, this person's evil type of perspective. And I loved that, because most of these movies do not do that, and Everest did. And this film also stars Jake Gyllenhaal and a bunch of other actors. This movie's almost an ensemble movie, because there's a bunch of Academy Award nominated people in this film. And so going into it, like, I wanted to believe in it because of the raw talent that was involved, and it really did pay off. It was more than a just normal let's try to survive type of film. And for you guys, I'm not going to spoil exactly what happens in the film, because I think that's just obviously bad. You guys don't get on here to hear the whole entire film out. So with that said, the film's pretty great. I would give it like a 7. If you have time, watch it. Just know going in that it does get kind of gruesome at points, and they don't really shy away from things like frostbite and skin coming off after frostbite and stuff like that. So it's not rated R, so there's not any blood or anything, but you still might think that it's pretty gruesome if that type of stuff bothers you. So with that said, thank you guys so much for supporting me and sharing this out. I appreciate you guys so much. I'll have another film review for you guys tomorrow.